Thank you very much. Thank you, Headmaster Stevenson, for the opportunity. To be honest with you, I feel a little out of place. And I say that because I wasn't really the best student in school. It actually started when I was in kindergarten. I think I was 4 or 5 years old, and my best friend, Shingai, was left kindergarten to go to grade 1. And the teacher said to my mum that I don't think I should go to grade 1 because I'm not ready for it yet. Maybe I couldn't touch my ear. But I was so sad to leave my best friend, Shingai, that I cried and cried and cried, and eventually my mum couldn't handle it, the teacher couldn't handle it, they just said, just go to grade 1. And so that's how I ended up in grade 1. And it actually didn't, my challenge in school didn't stop there. I remember struggling through school. I think from grade 1 to probably grade 12, I would come in the bottom half of the class, or maybe the bottom 2 or 3 in the class. I certainly wasn't an academic. I certainly wasn't a sports person, so it's not like I could lean on any particular thing and say, okay, I'm good at that. I remember when I was 12 years old, we used to get homework and we had to read certain things and do homework. My sister, who's 4 years younger than me, could read better than what I could at 12 years old. And so things didn't improve when I got to high school. In fact, I didn't get into any high school. So my dad obviously tried to get me into different schools, and the only ways I got into a good school was through a sizable donation. And that's how I actually got into the high school that I got into. And fortunately, through high school, you obviously end up doing more specific subjects, and I found that I was actually better at the sciences, things like maths and physics, but I really struggled with the languages. I know I had to do French as a second language, and because I was so poor, I didn't even make it to the exam. I remember we had corporal punishment back then, and I certainly felt the wrath of skipping the French exam because I knew I was going to fail it. But fortunately for me, my parents realized somehow that I wasn't stupid. Although if you look at my grades and you look at my results in class, you would say that this kid's gonna have problems. In fact, the school was so concerned, they told my dad that I think you need to do something else with this child. He's never going to make it to university. So my dad opened up a hardware store because during when I was at home, I would play in my dad's garage. Tools were amazing to me. The best part of my day was breaking my sister's electronic toys. And so my dad realized that I had some sort of talent, he just didn't know what it was. And so he actually, preparing for me as I left school, unfortunately, he had the means to start a hardware shop because I love tools. And so he thought, okay, well, as a typical Indian parent, you must own a shop on the corner, right? And he started a hardware, hoping that maybe it would be something I could own, and that would be my career path. I unfortunately disappointed him because I managed to end up doing really well, or okay, in maths and physics and chemistry, and I managed to get into engineering at UCT. And part of my learning at UCT, because I struggled to get through university as well, was to actually form a network of friends that could actually teach me. So I would ask a friend who was really good at a particular subject, listen, don't you want to explain it to me? Like, after hours, I'll buy you a beer or something, right? That was the bribery of my day. And he had numerous friends that would help me through my different subjects. And it just happened by chance that I read something somewhere, and I then realized that I was actually dyslexic. And all through my school, especially grade 6, which was a horror for me, I struggled through it thinking to myself that I was actually stupid because I couldn't get through it, but ended up being dyslexic. And so I guess that gave me a sense of confidence in backing myself and understanding that I'd rather listen than read something. But having looked back over those difficult years, I think what I learned was very early on in my life, in kindergarten, was to fail. and fail and pick yourself up and fail again. I obviously had the backing from my parents that gave me the confidence to keep trying. And I think that's really my asset today, in that when we face tough times, I'm okay with that. I'm completely fine with trying new things. I'm completely okay with failing. And I think that's a critical part of what is made me who I am today, is that let me try something new. I'm cool with that. Let me try. And I'm completely fine with failing, and I'm completely fine with pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And I find a lot of graduates that join Gendermark, and people, I'm fortunate to have interviewed many, many people, is that people are so afraid of stepping out of their comfort zone because they want to feel like they're going to be successful before they even start. And I think that the current method of education, where you have to pass an exam to be something, works for some but may not work for everyone, and it certainly didn't work for me. So that's the first message, is fail quick and be okay with failing, because the more times you fail, the more times you learn. You never learn from your successes, you actually learn from your failures. The second part of what I wanted to share with you was about falling in love. And I guess there's two kinds of falling in love. I fell in love with my wife, which is awesome. I have a deep love for my daughter. I think one day when you guys become parents, you will understand what it's like to love a child. You can't describe it. But fortunately for me, through my weaknesses in school, I learned my love for technology very early on. I spoke about how I would break my sister's toys, but in fact, I would break my own toys. I would try and push my parents to buy me some remote control something that had a motor or a battery. The first thing I would do is break it apart and try and make something different. And my parents allowed me to do that, as opposed to whack me over the head for breaking my expensive toy. They pushed me to do that, and I think that's an important point about trying to be creative and really finding your love. And I think the reason why finding your love is so important is because life is tough, work is tough. If you want to do something great, rather do something great that you love. Because in order for you to be great, you've got to fight through many, many tough times. You always see the end, but you don't see the pain that's felt before the success. And you can only be and fight hard for things that you love. And if you don't know the thing you love, keep looking. And your gut will tell you that this is my thing. And then you've got to keep fighting. Don't stop at the first hurdle, because it's going to be much tougher than that. The third and the last part of what I wanted to share with you was about learning how to learn. If somebody told me about Python, it would have meant something that I should run away from. Today, Python is a programming language that everyone needs to understand. And Python didn't exist when I was on campus, but today I have learned and taught myself how to program in Python. And I could do that with YouTube. I think that going forward into the future, learning how to learn is becoming more and more important. I'll give you a simple example. It has taken approximately 3,000 years to go from the abacus to the iPad. So the abacus, for those of you that don't know, is an old mechanical calculator with little beads and lines that you would use to calculate sums. So it's taken us 50 generations to go from abacus to iPad. And we've had a slow progress of technology and learning, and we've had generations to learn and pass it on. That 3,000 years of development we will experience in the next 10 years. So how on earth are teachers going to be able to teach us at that rate of change? It's not going to be possible. However, fortunately, we've got the internet, and so the information is already available on the internet. And I think the time has come for us to think about flipping the classroom around, where I think teachers need to become more mentors and guide children on what they need to learn for the future, and learners and children, whoever it is, or adults, need to start to take responsibility for their own learning. Because at the rate of change, teachers are not going to know everything, but experience can guide you through what you should be learning. And so I think that's an important lesson that I've learned over time. And I'd like to end off by just a little, I guess my motto, as I get bolder and grayer, I try and stay young, at least in my mind. I try and be crazy and do the crazy things. and most of all, I try to have fun while I'm being crazy. Thank you.